Hello ladies and gents of YouTube, this is Chino and welcome to Chino Gaming. This video is about Diablo 3 and the expansion Reaper of Souls, but more importantly the patch leading up to the expansion of Reaper of Souls, and what this means to you as a player and how you'll be interacting with it, and a little bit about my thoughts and impressions on this. Now some people do really believe that this patch and the Reaper of Souls expansion itself is the saviour of Diablo 3. And some people do believe it's too little too late because the game has been out for a fair while now. I myself think that these changes are fantastic and it actually creates a game that is much more playable than the original Diablo 3. And as much as I did play a little bit of Diablo 3, I have to say I got quite bored of it after some time. And so I'm going to share with you why this patch I think is fantastic and it's a great thing for Blizzard and Diablo 3 together, and why I'll definitely be playing Reaper of Souls once it comes out, why I'm already playing the patch. So to start off with, one of the biggest changes is the Paragon system, and now when you level up your character, instead of just getting a Paragon level for that singular character and getting a passive buff of Magic Find and Gold Find, you will now share that Paragon level with all of your characters, and instead of getting that passive buff, you will have a new Paragon leveling system. Now let me get into game so that I can show you. Well, to start off with, let me show you how all of my characters here, of course apart from my hardcore characters, have the level 39 next to the name and the level. So if I'll get into a different act so that we're not, a different quest I should say. Now, this new Paragon system I think is really interesting. What it does is, it gives you the ability to add stats to your character, permanent stats, and those stats are capped at a certain point. I think it's up to 50 points put into that. So let me show you this. So by pressing C in your character area, clicking on Paragon, you'll see here that you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 different categories up the top: core, offense, defense, and utility. Now, when you get a Paragon level, you'll be able to put it in any of these categories. So in core, you've got, as a monk, I've got dexterity, vitality, movement speed, and maximum spirit. Offense is attack speed, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. Defense is life armor, resist all, and life regeneration. And utility is area damage, resource cost reduction, life on hit, and gold find. So as a monk, as you can see, I've put 2 points in movement speed, that gives me extra 1% movement, and 8 points in dexterity. In offense, I've put 5 in attack speed and 5 in critical chance. In defense, I've used it all in resist all. Now I've got plus 50 resist all, you get 5 per point. And I've put 9 points in life on hit. So that's the way that works. Obviously, as a wizard, you'll have intellect, and as a barbarian, you'll have strength, etc., etc. So that's the way the new Paragon system works. I think a lot of people are really excited about these changes, but a little bit sad about their passive Magic Find. In replace to the Magic Find and Gold Find, there are still ways to buff your Magic Find. So when you're questing with people in a party, you're actually getting a gain to your gold find, and as always, as the experience changes to more difficult, you'll get a better gold find in that retrospect as well as experience. So there has been a change to difficulty while we're talking about difficulty. As you can see in the top right hand corner, my difficulty here is Torment 1. That's the highest difficulty, but the difficulties now have been completely changed. So you've got your difficulty as normal, hard, expert, master, or torment, and then there are several levels of torment. So your enemies throughout the game now will be in equal level to as you level. So if you're leveling up towards 60, whatever level you're at is generally around where the monsters will be leveled to. And once you hit the expert mark, you start getting bonus experience. So at expert level, you get bonus 100% experience. At master, you get 200. At torment, you get 300. At torment 2, you get 400, etc. It'll just move up that way. So Usually what would happen is, so you get a lot of people who are farming in this game now, and they would go out and they would get their stacks of Nephilim Valor, and then they would go to key wardens and farm keys and all of those sorts of things. So there's now been an introduction to Nephilim Glory and the removal of Nephilim Valor. So the Nephilim Glory are power orbs that you can pick up yourself or as a group, and it gives a buff to yourself in the group that can be stacked. It adds extra damage, gives you the ability to sort of nerf down enemies a lot faster. But in terms of getting extra experience, there are now things called pools of reflection, and these are randomized throughout your game, and you'll probably see them here and there scattered in dungeons. So what these pools of reflection look like, they just look like the standard health pools that you go and pick up, and they're not the orbs, but they're the little pools that you'll pick up for health. And instead of the red liquid, you'll see gold instead. Now these pools of reflection will give you added XP bonus until you hit 10% to your next Paragon level, or you die, whatever happens first. Now these pools of reflection can also be stacked up to 10 times, so they're pretty cool. And I think a lot of people, from what I'm reading in the forums, are quite happy with this, but I don't think many people have been able to really share their experience on how often they're finding the pools. I know there are a lot of people in the test realms testing this out, and now since the patch is live, there are people currently playing the game and seeing pools of reflection. But it's been, in a couple of days of playing for myself, in my opinion, they come often enough for it to really warrant the change. So there have also been changes in stats, and now you'll see in your main area of your character screen, you'll see these three main stat areas. You've got damage, toughness, and healing. So let's go through it. Obviously, we all know what damage is. It's always been there. The amount of damage that you can deal. It's based on all the stats that affect your damage. Toughness is the amount of raw damage that you can take before dying, and that's based on all of the defensive stats that you have. Like it says here, maximum life armor, dodge chance, average resistances, and so on. Now your healing. Healing is based on the stats that you have, like life steal, extra health when gaining orbs, life per second, life per hit, life per fury, or spirit spent, anything like that. So healing is now sort of, and toughness as well, is kind of combined stats to really help you out there and gives you an overall rating that's there. And a great thing about the stats is now when you look at a piece of gear and you hold the control key, you'll actually see the stat ranges that have been changed on the weapons. So once upon a time, you weren't able to see the stat ranges. So it's not just on weapons; it's on all gear. But you weren't able to see the stat ranges, and the stat ranges used to be much higher. And what I mean by that is, you'll see, for example, just look at the first stat there in the primary section. It's got 277 to 524 lightning damage, and then it's got in brackets 143 to 667. So that's the range of extra lightning damage that is on this particular weapon. Once upon a time, the ranges was something ridiculous. If you look at this weapon, it might have been something like 20 to 667, and people were getting ridiculously low numbers, and it wasn't really that helpful. Same as percentage damage, you see 41 to 50. See, the ranges are a lot smaller now, so you're bound to get something decent within those numbers. While we're on the topic of stats and loot, so they've kind of reworked a lot of legendary items in terms of the stats that are on there, but there's been the introduction of Loot System 2.0. Great thing about the Loot System 2.0 is all your drops will now matter to your character, and this is in preparation of the removal of the auction house, and the auction house will be gone forever, thank God. So now legendaries and a lot of other pieces will bind to account, and so they should, especially in the future when you're going to have to grind for chests and things like that, and I think they're deserving to the players that actually do the grinding, and I don't think they should be passed on over, and I think it does get rid of a lot of the sort of gold farming feel that's there for this game. So you'll see with this loot system as well that legendaries will drop more often, higher rarities will drop more often, but loot itself won't drop as often. So it's kind of getting rid of all the trashiness that you'll pick up. You'll still obviously pick up a lot of stuff that you won't need, but it's not going to be as often. Your bags aren't going to fill up as quick. But when you do drop loot, the stats are actually going to matter to your class, and the chances you'll find pickups that are quite good. You'll see a lot of gear from 60 onwards with resistor on it now, and again, myself as a monk here, I'll see a lot of gear with dexterity on it, crit, all that sort of stuff. So there's also been um, a change to crafting as well. While we're talking about loot, if you go over to crafting, you'll sort of we all know how crafting works. You forge an item and it's got rare properties, but now the properties on the crafted items also matter to yourself. So if you're crafting it as a monk, you'll see the dexterity be one of the main stats within the crafting on random stats, unless you're actually crafting something that's specific. So this is specifically vitality. So if I choose vitality 1, I'll get vitality, probably dexterity, and then probably 4 other random stats as well on that pair of braces. So that's pretty cool. I think it gets rid of a lot of the really high price random crafting that never was really that helpful at the end of the day. Um, so in terms of stats, I mean not stats, I mean mats, they've now simplified it into very simple categories. You've got the exquisite essence is still there, the fiery brimstone, and as well as the demonic essence. So they're all there, and a few legendaries. I don't have all the legendary mats, but there's fiery brimstone, and so they simplified that in order to keep more room. They've also had the introduction of diamonds, and diamonds have different stats than the rest, of course. On weapons, they increase damage against elites. On the helm, reduces cooldown of skills, and it's resist all for everything else. So the diamond is actually quite good, and I think it's going to be helpful when farming in the level 70 range. They've reduced the cost of the crafting, both for gems and for armor, and they've even gotten it all ready for leveling up past level 10. So it'll be Death's Breath that's needed for the leveling up of that. So all those changes have been implemented, and I think so far, to be honest, with my impressions so far, I've picked up a few pieces of gear, 2 of which actually have been upgrades. I've picked up this nice piece here, and the most interesting out of all of it was the fact that it prevents arcane damage completely and heals myself for 21% of the amount that is prevented. So when I see those crazy arcane torrents that kill a lot of people, I can actually stand in them and become more tanky while I'm standing in them. So that's fantastic. I also picked up, I think it was this. And that was a small upgrade from the one I had equipped at the time. I picked up a lot of other stuff, but those were the ones that stood out and actually got to use. But yeah, the legendaries have dropped a lot more often, which I found great. I've picked up a few set pieces as well, and I've only really been playing... I've probably played a total of 15 hours, maybe a little less than that. So what else is new? Well, there's been a change to boss fight mechanics. You'll sort of see them in the patch notes. I won't go through too much detail, but I think that's quite good. And speaking of battling and fighting bosses and things like that, player resurrections have also changed. You'll still suffer your durability loss, but you have the option to resurrect at your corpse. And of course, if you're in a boss fight, this won't occur, but you can still be picked up mid-fight if you're in a group. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty solid change instead of having to go all the way back to checkpoint. I think a lot of people give up and quit having to go all the way back to checkpoint sometimes, but resurrecting at the corpse I think is really handy. The hitboxes apparently were a little bit faulty before. Well, not faulty, but I think they were incorrect. And from what I read, the hitboxes on female characters were smaller. So now they've all been resized and they're all the same, to be fair, which I think it should have happened in the first place, but it's good that it's happened. The graphics have been updated, and they've been updated in order to fit in the pools of reflection, and a lot more things happening with elite mobs. We're seeing new moves with elite mobs. I'm not going to go through them all. We're seeing some different changes there, but the graphics are looking really good with them, and the fights are actually quite fun and challenging at the same time. So that's really interesting. There's also events now, which a lot of people are farming for. So instead of farming for just the key wardens, you can now just run through in any act, and randomly you'll find events where you will get waves of enemies and a time limit to kill those waves, and it's based on, sort of what difficulty level you're at and how many people are in your group. And if you manage to kill X amount of waves within the time limits that they give you for each wave, you'll get rewards. Some of the rewards always include XP and gold, but generally if you get enough waves, you will get resplendent chests and buffs and all those sorts of things, which are quite nice. The followers. So you see my Templar's level 60. I mean, I'm level 60, he's level 60, but it's always going to be that way now. So they will automatically, all the followers will automatically level up as you level up. So if you haven't leveled up a follower and you want to use them, I think they will automatically be leveled up instead of you having to take them through, get them leveled up. It's always a little bit of a pain. So they've removed that completely. There's been massive class changes, and this is something that I will leave for another video, or I'll leave for you guys to check out in the patch notes. The patch notes are quite detailed about these changes. There's been a massive reworking of every single class in terms of skills and skill runes. But if you have a look, I mean, I've already seen all of mine, so they're not there, but usually you get the pop-ups when you're leveling up and there's a new skill. So you'll see those pop-ups, which will show you basically what the new skills are. For example, they've reworked Thunderclap. Thunderclap used to teleport. They've removed the teleport, and now it's just a short dash, which is quite annoying, but I still use Thunderclap because I think it's fantastic. But that's just one of many changes that they've made to my class. They've completely reworked aura system with monks and all of those sorts of things. And going back to stats, actually, something that I just remembered is there's been a change to lifesteal, and lifesteal, I'll just see if I can see it here. I think that's the reason why is because they've added it here, life on hit. So there's been a change to lifesteal, and I think in general it's the life on hit, and at level 60 it's been significantly reduced to 10%, I think it is. So it's a shame, but I think people were getting way too much health back, so it's kind of fair. So that's why I'm putting points in lifesteal, and I'm kind of mixing it up with attack speed and crit chance, so I can steal a percentage of my life back on hit and hit as fast as I can, so I can get back as much life as I can and get back as much spirit as I can. Lastly, there's been one other big change, and I think this is going to make this game a little more social, and it is the social change to this game. And you'll see this little box here next to my friends list, and that's communities. You click on that, and we've got two things. We've got one that's a clan, and I've only just created a clan and invited one friend just to check it out. And in here you've got your clan news, and it shows all the things that I've looted and achievements from me resetting the whole game and playing through on Torment, and the things that I've picked up. And you see the message of the day if I, as a clan leader, am to edit, and you'll see there's some clan information there, and I can change member settings, and there's a roster there, and I've only, as I said, invited one friend just to sort of see how that goes. But that's the clans, and they're pretty cool. And there's clan chat. If you have a look, I can speak to my clan. It tells me there's no one online to hear me in the clan. And then lastly, there's communities, and that's I've joined the Reddit community, but there's a lot of other different communities available. Let me just get out of that. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, there's a chat and another roster, and again, if I was a higher member of the Reddit community, I'd be able to change things, and it's kind of just the same thing, but I think it's just a way to communicate and get together with your fellow gamers. Alright, so that's it for now. I'm going to put together some videos showing the events and showing a little bit more of the Torment levels so that you can see the elites in action. But this was more about just some information for you guys so you can understand how things have been changed. If you like the video, please subscribe, because I will be making a lot more Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls videos once the expansion comes out as well. And thanks for watching. See you guys.